Okay, I think we have everyone together. So I've just hit record. And hi, everybody. I'm Mary Mason. Nice to see you all. Again, welcome to our very first town hall hosted by the Agentic Advertising Org. And to kick off our program, I'm thrilled to hand it over to our esteemed advisors, Randall Rothenberg and then Matthew Eagle. So, Randall, I'm going to hand it over to you to kick us off and take us through the agenda.
Thanks, Mary. It's great to have everybody here. It's great to have a crew of both speakers and attendees from around the world. I think literally from every continent right now, with the exception of Antarctica. So thank you for joining us. We are going to run through several things today. We're at a defining moment for our industry. We're here to share groundbreaking findings from our capstone report, Building the Future of Marketing, and to celebrate the unveiling of AdCP 3.0, the newest edition of this groundbreaking protocol. We're standing at the precipice of a real phase shift in marketing. We're moving from the friction and commoditization that characterized too much of the programmatic era into the limitless potential of the agentic era. So today we're going to explain what that is, what this phase shift is about. We're going to describe the philosophy underpinning agenticadvertising.org. We're going to overview the state of the industry, and then we'll move into a more detailed description of the opportunities and the benefits that AdCP 3.0 provides. We'll then talk in a little more detail about agenticadvertising.org and what it can give you. And then with time remaining, we hope to have a Q&A. Let me give you the background of our report. I think if we can switch to the next page. I think we can even go to the next page. This report serves as a definitive roadmap for what Matt and I, we're partners in Journey Spark Consulting, what Matt and I call the creative economy, and that's creative spelled with AI in the middle. The report maps out how AI and agentic protocols are fundamentally restructuring how marketing works and how marketing work gets done across the entire marketing media value chain. This report was commissioned by the founders of agenticadvertising.org. It's a group of about 20 or 30 companies, and they came together to help design the AdCP protocol, and then thought that there might be cause and a calling for an organization to be developed to help forward the potential of that protocol and the redefinitions of the marketing and media industries that it implies. So we went in, Matt and I, and we, to ensure that the roadmap reflects the reality of the market, we conducted deep dive interviews with more than 100 senior executives across brands, agencies, publishers, and tech platforms, and we surveyed more than 1,300 professionals who attended the historic AdCP launch webinar that occurred last October. The consensus for change in the industry was overwhelming. 80% of our respondents to the survey said they were in favor of a new multipolar organization for agentic marketing. We can summarize the report in kind of four chapters. It's a pretty long report. We encourage you to download it. We encourage you to read it, but we also concede that it's about 60 or so pages long, so you might not get through the whole thing. So let me give you the high points of it. High point number one, we're identifying the rise of what we call the orchestrator and the death of the assembly line in advertising and marketing. For the better part of a century, humans have acted as cogs in a rigid and linear marketing assembly line, writing briefs, buying slots, manually executing tasks. That era of manual authorship, one by one authorship, is largely over. Marketers are transforming into system designers, and the best marketers will be visionary system designers. Instead of buying isolated impressions, marketers will now be orchestrating dynamic, integrated experience systems where autonomous software agents really instantly coordinate complex campaigns across paid, owned, and earned media. That leads to number two, finding number two. There is a great rebundling going on, a fusing of brand, creative, and media. Decades ago, holding companies, this really begins in the 1980s, holding companies began shattering creative strategy and media procurement into discrete, isolated, and disconnected silos within their holdco structures. AdCP is a connective tissue that not only encourages but pretty much requires a fusing of these activities back together. We're able to make creative assets dynamically machine legible, and that transforms static ads from what's been during the programmatic era a bit of a historical afterthought into a living, breathing set of variables in a real time, continuous optimization loop. Category number three is the integration of marketing across the enterprise value chain. As the second finding implies, these things are able to come together now in ways that haven't been kind of dignified by the structure of the marketing and advertising industry over the past 2 decades. Creative has been relegated, as you'll read in the report, to a bit of a sub-basement, almost a specialty within the marketing and media value chain. The opportunity now exists for creative to return to its role atop the pillar of marketing. Also, what AdCP allows is for a discoverability of forms of inventory in publishers that also have not been able to surface readily within rigid programmatic technologies. So we're able to bring together many of the sub-disciplines within marketing, integrate them into decision-making systems and orchestration systems, and actually literally orchestrate the way marketing works in real time. And that leads to finding number four. This represents a very big change in marketing. It resembles, in a way, a return to the full service era that predated the era of the holding companies, but an entirely new set of technologies fueling it and bringing these things together and allowing individuals for an enormous amount of control and dynamism that they've lacked over the past several decades. That's going to mean education, that's going to mean training, that's going to mean a lot of collaboration. And if we can move to the next page, I want to talk a bit more about the collaboration. This is an illustration from the report. We were attempting to try to put into illustrative terms, how to describe the industry, how to show how relationships work, and what we're showing here is that, obviously the center of AI marketing remains the LLMs and the innovations that they've brought to the world. Around that, of course, Model Context Protocol was built that allows the ability to make inquiries of the LLMs and to integrate forms of data safely and securely so that we can address questions, not just in marketing, obviously, but in almost any discipline we want. AdCP is built atop and with MCP, and it's kind of the force that helps integrate these various functions that you see in the outer circles. And it also allows, in that yellow circle, it allows many of us, all of us actually, to become builders of AI agents. And around that, we then see a rise of aggregators, agencies, curators, and marketplaces that are bringing human beings and their agentic servants together to create this kind of new set of this new marketing industry that we're projecting. Around that are the brands and publishers who are really the links to the furthest outer circle, and that is consumers. We used to talk in the very beginning of the internet era that consumers are at the center and consumers are at control. It's really not true that consumers are at the center. Consumers are the recipients and the beneficiaries of everything that we do, and they inform back to us everything that we should be doing. So we see this not as a chain, but as an intricate web of activities in which everybody, builders, agencies, aggregators, publishers, brands, consumers, will effectively be collaborating to create the new marketing landscape. If we can move to the next page. So with that as preface, AAO is a movement to accelerate the development of the creative economy. AAO is the shorthand for agenticadvertising.org, of course. And we're here with a mission to unite builders and thinkers to develop agentic solutions, a vision to be the engine of this new creative economy, and with a purpose to pioneer a more intelligent, human-centric advertising future through agentic AI. What really links the mission, the vision, and the purpose is collaboration and partnership. We see the AdCP and agentic intermediation really encouraging, requiring new forms of partnerships that aren't fully relevant. Let me backtrack on it. Too much of marketing, too much of the work that we have been doing over the past 20 or 30 years is focused on transactions, about buying and selling, which is, we talk about partnerships in buying and selling of inventory, but it's an inherently adversarial function in which buyers and sellers are focused on price, and they're debating, am I getting what it's worth? We're basically saying that agentic intermediation expands that conversation in ways that take us out of the sole focus on efficiency and allow us to focus again on the effectiveness of what we're doing. And effectiveness requires collaboration and partnership. I'm going to turn us over now to my partner in Journey Spark Consulting, Matt Eagle, who will go into more details about our findings, about how the findings relate to what we're doing with agenticadvertising.org, and what your role and your opportunities are in joining the organization and driving this practice forward. Matt?
Thanks, Randall. I have a few slides. I'm going to share some additional recommendations and findings from the report, and then we're going to bring a few folks in, Ben and excuse me, Brian Perdian, to talk about and the AdCP 3.0. Please do add your questions into the chat. We'll try to address some of them as we go. I saw some in there already. And we will leave time at the end for Q&A, but do add your questions into the chat. We may not get to them immediately after you type them, but we're keeping an eye there. And we will be making sure to try to get to them as much as possible in the conversation. So let's go to the next slide. So here you see a few of the shifts that are occurring in as a result of agentic. For more than a century, marketing has really been organized around authorship. What do we mean by authorship? Well, someone writes the brief, someone else writes the copy, someone else designs the layout, someone else plans the media, someone buys it, someone measures it, and finally someone decides how to optimize it further. That's actually a simplification, because there's millions and millions of hours that go into this value chain that Randy was talking about. And it's much more than just buying and selling programmatic advertising. So there's a huge shift going on right now. What agentic is actually allowing now is a shift from authorship to orchestration. That's a really important shift that we highlight in the report. We're all builders now. So we're actually building agentic systems, whether we're brands or publishers or agencies or tech and data platforms. We're building systems that enable orchestration, and the work inside marketers is shifting. In the past, humans were the loop. Now humans are in the loop and humans are designing the loop. So in the agentic world, the center of gravity shifts from making things to building systems that make things. And this enables personalization and experimentation at a much greater scale than it's been possible in the past. So AI can be used still to optimize the targeting of ads, but creative is 70% of the ROI of a campaign. And getting the data signals right and optimizing experimentation of the advertising content and how it connects to later in the customer experience with your website and mobile app and other owned media is the key to getting, in many cases, a much higher lift from your campaign. We've seen 50 to 150% improvements in ROI from agentic. So this is from not just capturing the efficiency, that actually unlocks the effectiveness by redeploying the time and using AI for much more scaled experimentation. Um, let's go to the next slide, please. So Randy talked about how this is more than just buying and selling. This is AdCP certainly allows for substantial improvements in the efficiency but it also opens up a much broader set of inventory than in the past. Discovery and doing deals over longer horizons. It's more stateful than stateless. And so this is not just a programmatic plus view of the world. In the pre-agentic era, things were stateless, where we treated every ad impression as an isolated
Is it
snapshot.
back there, maybe?
I think someone needs to mute.
Oh, there it is. There it is. There it is.
So um, the before AdCP, agents couldn't, if an agent before AdCP, an AI agent built by a brand could not talk to a publisher's inventory system without a bespoke API integration. Now with AdCP, a marketer can input a natural language brief, and you can also facilitate the discovery of non-standard inventory. So this opens up a lot more opportunity. In the past, it required much more bespoke selling systems of humans interacting with other humans to deal with more complex inventory. Plus, the execution of everything that happens before the transaction or after the transaction required human beings to coordinate it, which added a lot more complexity of integrated campaigns and doing content experimentation at scale. So now AdCP makes creative assets become machine legible and allows dynamic, transformative creative, allowing you to move from static assets into a continuous loop to optimize content against signals. So this is a huge shift occurring. So let's all open up our mindsets. This is not just programmatic plus. This is much broader, as Randy was talking about, across the value chain. Let's go to the next slide. I mentioned the importance of leveraging data signals to optimize both efficiency and effectiveness. So there's certainly efficiency benefits. Um, you know, Early tests with AdCP indicate as much as 80% of the human time spent can be automated, that can be reinvested. But these data signals can be used to do more than optimize efficiency. You can use them to optimize next best content. But today, a lot of that occurs in silos. You've got paid media across different surfaces, and you've got owned media like e-commerce and brand.com assets and owned media communications that are being optimized in isolation. Now, what we can do is use these data signals to optimize who gets the ad, what content version, and drive the versioning of the content in the advertising and the owned media off of a common set of data signals. That's where we're headed very, very rapidly. So this allows us to drive up customer lifetime value and capture those 50 to 150% lifts that I mentioned. Let's go to the next slide. So now we're going to hear from Ben, Pia, and Brian to share more about AdCP. And I apologize, I think I said pretty instead of Pia earlier. But delighted to hear from all of you. I'll share more about AdCP 3.0.
Hi, hi everyone. I'm Benjamin, so I'll talk about governance. So it might look like a boring topic, but I think it's really important in this agentic era. Can you move to the next slide, please? So it's really important for us to make sure we have the right principle in place because we cannot let the agent do whatever they want without the right governance. And from our perspective, we came up with a concept called embedded human judgment. We feel it's a stronger positioning than human loop because we don't want to see human as the last resort from an agent when they don't know what to do. We want to make sure that judgment is baked in inside the whole system. So for us, human as always have to remain accountable for whatever decision is made. As a quick example, if, for instance, a buyer is typically spending 1 million, and at some point there's a human error and they input 10 million instead of 1 million, we want to make sure the system will alert the human saying, "Oh, is it normal?" And then and if let's say it is, and when it goes on the sell side, the seller will also see that suddenly the spend increased by tenfold. So we want to make sure there's an alert at the same time. So the seller is also aware and is accepting the change in the pattern. So basically, we have two humans on the hook. So we don't want at some point to end up in a situation where everyone is just saying, "Oh, the machine decided to do this." So that's why for us it was really important to embed that principle. So basically, the agents will execute, but humans own the intent, risk, and trade-offs. And there are things that cannot be optimized. So the strategy, the brand safety requirements, the ethics, the value. So for us, that's really, really important. So human judgment is at the center. And to make it a bit more concrete, so this is the manifesto on the next slide, please. You'll see how we want to embed this in the framework. So basically, the way it works is any input or context, whether it's data signal, campaign goals, market conditions, user intent, will go through an agent. There'll be a governance layers with boundaries, confidence, policy, risks. And when it fits the criteria, then the agent will execute within the constraints. But as soon as there's something that is beyond the threshold, depending of how much it's beyond the threshold, the agent will start throttling. So meaning it won't fully stop, and then make sure there's a human that can be alerted, because as we know, it's not all people like Brian waking up at 4 a.m. in Japan that is willing to answer an agent saying, "Oh, there's a problem." So sometimes we may have a delay from a human after it drank a few coffees before it can answer. So that's why we want to have throttling, because maybe it's not crossing the red line. But if it does, it just stops until a human says it's okay. So for us, this is baked in all processes across the framework. So we have a lot of people that contributed on the governance. So I want to thank everyone, but we also welcome more to join to make sure we cover all angles. So this is for us a key component of AdCP 3.0 release. Now moving to Pia, I think.
Thank you, Ben. I'm very excited to walk everyone through what's new in the 3.0 on the creative side. I think there's quite a bit to cover, and some of it represents a really meaningful shift in how the protocol works. So if we can go to the next slide, please. The first thing I would call out is that there's now 3 ways on how to build a creative. So the build creative call now supports 3 modes that are generation from a brief, transformation of an existing manifest into a new format, and also retrieval of an existing creative from the agent's library. And what's super cool about this is that you can also request multiple formats in a single call, which is particularly useful for multi-placement campaigns. As the next thing, I would say that formats also got a serious upgrade. So previously, a format could essentially just signal that assets were required, which wasn't necessarily useful for anyone downstream. But now formats can essentially describe exactly why they need something. So a logo, a headline, repeatable group like story frames. And when a creative agent is communicating with a buyer or any kind of generative tool, it can be really precise about requirements, and that makes for a much cleaner and more reliable handoff. An interesting thing as well about the protocol is that rights now travel with the creative. This one is quite an important one because manifests can now carry rights and provenance information, licensed talent, music, IP, including also geographic restrictions, validity periods, and a verification URL that downstream system can check before saving. And that's why then the rights lifecycle is no longer something that you can manage separately. It's embedded in the creative itself. And what is a performance if we can actually measure it? So to achieve that, we added a get creative delivery task that also lets buyers query exactly which variants were served. And that's particularly useful for creatives where variants were generated dynamically at serve time. And you can finally have a clear visibility in what actually ran. And the fifth thing is that multi-agent patterns are now also formalized. And this is the one that I would actually flag as architecturally significant because V3 defines how orchestrators coordinate across multiple creative and sales agents as well. And capability such as discovery, format routing, creative distributions, and also delivery aggregation. And that's the infrastructure that then makes it one brief, many publishers, and works in a very standardized and repeatable way. And now to the brand JSON, and therefore the next slide. I would say that this is probably the change with the broadest implications, both strategically and also technically. And it's also the one with the biggest upside for anyone who built against V2. In V2, if we compare it, brand assets were passed in line as brand manifest on the creative request. It worked, but it also meant that every system that needed brand information had to have it handed to it specifically. And there was no single authoritative source. That's why in V3 we formalized this as the brand protocol. And brand identities such as logos, colors, fonts, tone guidelines, and so on now live on the brand's own domain. We call it well-known/brand JSON, and it's resolvable by any agent. So what you do is you pass a brand domain in your build creative call, and the agent fetches it automatically. I would say that this concept will be quite familiar to all the publishers in the room who already host agent JSON files. And that file kind of like declares what property exists, who can sell them. And brand JSON similarly is hosted by the brand. And it declares who you are, how agent should represent you. And together, the both sides, the publisher side and also then the brand side, can help establish trust in a verifiable identity kind of a way. And I would say the reason that brand JSON matters goes far beyond convenience. It gives agents a reliable, authoritative source of brand truth for the first time. And as you know, today in the creative agent world, there can be creatives that typically don't have direct access to brand guidelines. That happens as agents scrap websites, infer colors, approximate typography, and also guess the tone. And that's why the output, as you can see on the slide, can sometimes look close, but close is not good enough when it comes to scale. Wrong hex values, slightly off fonts, and a brand voice that doesn't quite land don't go the long way. And brand JSON addresses that at the infrastructure level. It's not just a creative tool, it's a governance layer. And on-brand output therefore stops being a matter of luck and it becomes a matter of protocol. The last important call out I would make that brand manifest is no longer supported in version 3. So if you're building for V3, a migration on brand JSON is required. The good news is that this is a one-time low-lift task, and what you get on the other side is a significantly cleaner and more scalable approach to all the brand identity management, the one that works across every agent, every system that touches your creative. And with that, I would pass it to you, Brian.
All right. Good morning, everybody from Seoul, Korea, although I have no idea where I am at this point. Um, I am going to share my screen. I'm not sure who's running this, so if I could just share. All right. So this is the new updated AdCP docs, and there's a section here, building with AdCP. If you click on AdCP 3.0, you can actually see all the changes that have gone into the 3.0 spec. And it's pretty awesome to look at all of this. This represents a ton of ideas and feedback from, at this point, tens of people. I was trying to look at all the folks who've put in issues or suggestions or submitted PRs. It's a pretty impressive list. And for those folks that are, you know, sending me things on Slack or email and just saying this is the worst stuff I've ever seen. Thank you. That's very helpful, actually. If you go back to October, when we ran the first ever end-to-end agentic media buy on our kind of launch webinar, you can see how many things just weren't in this spec that are now. And so if you look at what Pia just shared, this brand identity idea of brand.json and a community brand registry, that's a major part of this protocol. There's things like creative workflows and creative libraries that come down here. This is, a bunch of feedback. And then we have things like creative governance. How would you actually run a end-to-end workflow to make sure that a generated creative actually works? That's the creative stuff, but there's a lot more. And I don't expect anyone to dig through all of these things step by step. If you did implement the 2.5 spec, I strongly recommend you start working on 3.0. Most of the buyers will be implementing from scratch with 3.0. So I would not wait to do that. There's a bunch of stuff here you can use. If you are thinking about building an agent, build it on top of the SDKs. So um, there's a JavaScript SDK and there's a Python SDK. And it takes about this much code, maybe a slight bit more, to generate a functional agent, either as a buyer or a seller. This library, the JavaScript one, gets updated constantly. You can see it's at version 4.18.1. This is almost always completely up to date with the spec. The Python one is updated slightly less often, but this is what powers, for instance, the pre-bid sales agent. And the only reason it's not being updated is because right now this is pinned to the latest code and this is pinned to the last release, just because these communities are on slightly different versions of the spec. So if you're using these SDKs, every change to the spec you can pick up for free, basically. And if we wanted to, we could literally sit here and ask Claude Code to build us an agent, and it will. I've tested this multiple times. If you have checked out the uh, Academy section here in the AdCP website. This is very, I think, fun and pretty easy way to learn about AdCP. If you start a free lesson, you don't have to pay for this. You can actually engage in a conversation with Addy, who will begin talking to you about, for instance, you know, what would take to learn more about AdCP. Some of these modules actually have you build an agent. It is really easy to do. Um, it will take you very little time. You don't have to be a computer scientist. Um, and if you are like me and want to skip out of it because you know a lot about the protocol, you can just do an assessment and tell it what you know, and you'll get a bunch of answers. And as you can see from this, we've already had 34 people get all the way through one of these certifications. It's not really launched yet, but it's here. And if you're a member of AdCP, you can send this out to your organization. Like, I'd love to see companies say, we're going to get everybody trained up and certified with this process. So, some people have asked about fairness and about hallucination and all these things. It's kind of interesting to think about what it means to have a AI agent actually running a training process like this. So give it a try. There's actually a bunch of thought and framework to make sure that everyone gets the same process and has to go through the same set of questions. So that's, I think, worth doing if you're part of this organization. Um, the last thing I'll say, because I only have a few minutes, is that if you haven't dug through the protocols in the documentation, there's a lot of walkthroughs. So if you were curious about what Benjamin said and said, man, this sounds really boring, I want to learn more, um, there's a very scary robot button about to press buy. And what we can see here is, I find cartoons very easy to understand. So these are cartoons. Um, but this idea of, how an orchestrator, a governance agent, and a seller work together. Um, One fun thing is the characters in these stories, if you go across the protocols, are the same. So Sam, who is our media buyer, here is trying to run this process, as you can see, but she'll show up in other of these experiences. So if you want to learn more, about any of this, if you want to learn about how creative works, you can see these stories, and they all have the actual JSON and code embedded here. So this is Maya, who's our creative, having her agents build some creative, but you can kind of see what's actually happening back and forth. So dig into these. Feedback appreciated. Some of them are pretty interesting around how things like AI chat will work, we think, around brands flipping in and out of first party context, which is this idea of sponsored intelligence. We've got some new sponsored intelligence protocol work in progress that's about to come out. And kind of thinking about how a chatbot could get demand in a privacy safe way from buyers, which I think is going to be critically important if we want to have a third party advertising ecosystem. If you think about what you say to your AI agent, you probably don't want it sending all of that out to 50 or 100 third parties because much of it will be highly sensitive or random. I say random things to Claude all the time, and Claude puts up with it. So last thing I'll say is timeline. So this is a lot of things. There's quite a few companies implementing the 3.x, 3.0 spec right now, and we're now in release candidate 2. Um, a bunch of great feedback has come in from that. We'll ship release candidate 3, and that should be today. I think we're done. I keep saying I think we're done. And then, increasingly small changes or breaking changes have come in that have made us want to just run one more cycle. But we're very close to a point where we can say, ship it, this is going out. 4.0 is going to be about a year away. Like this is not something that's going to continue to change at this pace. There's a huge amount of work to get to what I would consider a complete protocol that could do all the things across not just digital channels, but this is multiple companies working in linear TV. We've got broadcast audio. We've got some work in Germany on print, which is super exciting. We've got the AI surfaces. Probably things I'm not even remembering right this second, but this is a really wide-reaching, ambitious spec. So we will ship 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, probably on give or take a 3-month cadence. Those will be primarily additional functionality or tweaking what we have. I do expect some small breaking changes in 3.1, things like required fields, not complete reimaginations, and anything that's a really massive change, we'll get into 4.0. And if you're not in the Slack group and you want to contribute or be part of this process, obviously, love to have you and happy to answer any questions anybody has about all of this. And I think I'm supposed to transition to, let's see. Yes, this slide. And so on this one, are these available, guys, to actually play with? There's some demos here that I think we can share from some companies who are actually building on AdCP.
Yes. In the lead up to this, to the town hall, we made an ask for members, right, to share that AdCP work that they wanted to show off, right? So if they're building, experimenting, making progress on. So a huge shout out to Pubmatic, Optival, and Celtra. These will be available on our YouTube page shortly. Thank you.
I think it's I think we can go back to Matt now.
Yeah, there we go. Thanks so much, Mary. I'm going to share just a few more minutes about how you can all engage as a member to tap into the awesomeness that Brian, Pia, and Ben shared, and that everyone is co-creating together in the communities. This is really a movement we're building together. I'll share a few minutes, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A. Let's go to the next slide. One of the things that Randy and I had fun with in building the report is thinking about, well, who are we designing the AO for together? Who are we all designing this for? Because it's a community activity. And we created these personas, which there's 5 inner core personas and 4 outer core personas. The way to think of this is the ones in green are the primary audience that we're targeting the member value prop for, but we're not going to lose the orange ones along the way. They'll be more followers, and the ones in green will be more leaders. And I'm just going to share a couple of these personas here. And what I would encourage you all to do is read the report, but also go to the site, and in your member profile, when you join, you can actually see which persona you are. Okay. And these personas are not demographics, they're not job titles, they're patterns of behavior, investment, and ambition. So, who are you trying to be as you embrace agentic? To give you a flavor of this, in the top right magic quadrant, high effectiveness, high efficiency, you're getting both, the best of both. A molecular gastronomist is a chef who cooks with chemistry. That's really exciting. So the chefs of the marketing world that are combining art and science together, they don't simply optimize the cost of ingredients and the labor to cook them. They elevate the recipes. They don't choose between creativity and analytics. They fuse them. Okay, so molecular gastronomists are companies across brand, agency, publisher, and tech that are really changing the game for how creativity and analytics come together. Data denizens are the native inhabitants of first-party data ecosystems, retailers, publishers, and others that are monetizing engagement in enthusiast and high interest categories like house and home, health and wellness, sports and fitness. They use data to close the gaps between media behavior and shopping behavior. So those are just 2 examples of personas. This is a very big tent. There's a lot of companies of different sizes and focus that are part of AO. There's a ton of energy here. So we welcome all those personas. This is for you, right? And you can learn more about what persona you are on the website by taking the Addy. That's a fun quiz that Addy helped us create. Let's go to the next slide. So what is the member value proposition designed for these personas? It boils down to 4 things: align, adopt, accelerate, and amplify. Align is about participating in the development of standards and protocols. You can engage within your organization to align on how to apply AdCP to drive changes in how the work gets done. So you can use AdCP and AO as a catalyst to drive change in your organization, to align on how the work's going to be done, and then power those changes with AI and agentic. You can adopt AdCP into your work, and that can support not only trading impressions, but the way discovery and creativity happen in the organization. This is much broader than just programmatic plus. This covers more of the value chain, as we talked about earlier. Accelerate is about helping members navigate the ecosystem and forging agentic partnerships. It's about fostering POCs and pilots for the high value use cases. So we want to help you forge those networks and collaborate together. And amplify is about reinforcing trust and showcasing success. AO will reinforce trust through our member directory. Think of it as like the good housekeeping seal of approval and finding other members, and professional certification. So we're also going to showcase the stories of how members have adopted AdCP, some of the videos that Mary just shared, and there'll be more to come. We really want to showcase all of your success about how you all have adopted AdCP and driven results for both efficiency and effectiveness. So you can see together we're tapping into the energy of all the members in the community to move things forward faster than ever across these the sources of value to the members. Let's go to the next slide, please. So one way you can get involved is the working groups. The working group, I'm showing just three examples of the working groups, and you can see there's a lot of people who are already engaging within these working groups. The working groups are for you and members of your team that can get involved in pushing AdCP 3.0 forward to 3.1, 3.2, all the way up to 4. This is our energy is a renewable resource. It's all of us together that are building this. And the working groups are the place to come to help move the standard and protocol forward. Let's go to the next slide. The councils are the primary forum for collaboration beyond the technical work. The councils are there to enroll and engage a broader set of stakeholders focusing on thematic opportunities. So the councils are mastermind format share groups. They're going to meet monthly. They're launching now. You can go to the site and sign up for them. Definitely reach out with any questions. The signals and data, these are the first 4 that are going to launch. There'll be more to come later this year. The signals and data group is about connecting data signals across paid, owned, and earned media. It's about signal normalization and interoperability, privacy, governance, provenance, and agent-to-agent learning loops. So signals and data power the whole system. It's really critical. So that's one of the councils to engage on what's innovative and what's happening and showcasing success stories and meeting others who are pushing the envelope for signals and data. Content effectiveness and creator economy is a council really that's focused on how to shift the curve for content experimentation at much greater scale, optimizing creative based on insights across the full omnichannel experience, linking emotion to business value, scaling content versions, fusing creative and media together, the reunification that Randy talked about, continuous testing iteration. So that's a council to get together with other like-minded people to share where the things are going and share examples and collaborate together. CTV and streaming is about reframing CTV as an amplifier of connected commerce and loyalty, just getting beyond reach and frequency metrics through stateful outcome-oriented measurement and making it easier to create content and plan campaigns at scale across SMBs and for publishers to profitably serve them. So this is a really exciting opportunity to see where things are going with CTV and streaming applying AdCP. And then lastly, retail media and shopper solutions is about orchestrating the end-to-end shopper journey, thinking beyond just the advertising inventory and making retail media interoperable, but integrating creative media and commerce signals and enabling these content-based experiences across the shopper journey with the advertising into owned media. These are 4 different forums you can lean into. You can join as many as you like. Different people from your organization can get involved. Randy and I will be moderating these with others from the group that want to get more involved. So stay tuned for more to come, but definitely raise your hand online for which group you'd like to be part of, and we'll loop you in as we launch each of these. So that's all we have to share today. If you want to get involved, join AO as a member, join the working groups and the councils, and get involved and learn with AdCP 3.0 and completing the academy that Brian shared. I think we have some time for some Q&A, folks.
Yeah, I'm gonna let me start because with thanks to Pia and Ben and Brian and Matt, we do have time for questions. Jesse Miller asked a question in Slack about 45 minutes ago, so why don't we start with that? And Jesse asked, is AAO planning to partner with IAB in these efforts? There are already a lot of parts of this that feel like they'd overlap, and some early collaboration would probably be helpful. I suppose I should take that on. So let me say what I've been saying to the AdCP team, the AAO team, and the IAB team. Number one, there's a lot of work to go around. This is a new era. We don't know who's going to win in terms of agentic marketing and who's not going to win. A lot of work to be done, a lot of technology to be developed, a lot of experiments to be undertaken, a lot of adoption to be undertaken. So collaboration has already begun. I think you all know that the AAO already entered into a partnership with Prebit that's bearing a lot of fruit. Founders of AAO have met with the leaders of IAB, so those conversations are ongoing. I do want to point out, reinforce something we said at the beginning, though, that AAO exists for two fundamental reasons. One is to continue to develop the protocol and adjacent technologies, to continue to create the opportunities that the protocol will lead to. Really important to point out, and you'll see it in the report, that protocols have a history of reshaping entire industries and actually creating new industries. If you think of AdCP as having the potential of HTTP, you can see where this goes. So again, a lot of work to go around. The other part that we foresee AAO really leading in is as a professional association. And this really does not exist in the marketing profession yet. It's a training organization, a learning organization, not just a technology development organization. And very, very importantly, not just an organization that's focused on the mechanics of buying and selling transactions. It's focused on the entirety of the marketing and media value chain. And I'm not saying at all that IAB doesn't do that. IAB does do a lot of that. But there's opportunities here for different organizations to collaborate on things that are of joint interest and to separate on things that are of particular interest to that organization's members. So we do foresee lots of collaboration and lots of cooperation. And we also foresee lots of areas where individual companies and people and organizations can go off and do their own thing.
Ben or Pia, did you have anything you want to add?
Maybe quickly, so I've nothing different to add to Randall. So we will use, there's a lot of standards from the IB Tech Lab that will remain super useful. So why would we rewrite VAST when we do agentic? But again, I think it's just looking at this from two different spheres. One is actually stealing Brian's point, is trying to find who's right between quantum physics or traditional physics. They just have different ways of seeing the world and answering questions. So I think this is what it's about. So we and as Randall stated, the pre-bid partnership is really important for us to connect to what's already there. We don't want to reinvent what is not needed, but not everything was invented, so we need to work on this.
We're almost out of time. I know we potentially take one more question, but keep the conversation coming in Slack. And we're going to be sharing, you can get the report on the AO website, and we're going to be sharing some content publicly as excerpts from that over the coming days. And like keep the conversation going, not only in Slack, but if you want to add comments when we're posting stuff, we'll definitely answer them. Let's have the conversation. And then we can also keep it going in the working groups and the councils and the meetups. So this is a community, and the conversation makes us all stronger and makes the collaboration better.
Yes. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Randall, and to the panel for answering any questions. If anyone has any others, please put it in the chat. And as Matt said, lots more to come. We also posted a sneak peek for all of you who attended today of the report in the chat, so you can check that out and the opportunities to sign up for membership as well. So thank you so much. Very successful first town hall, and we will be chatting with you all soon.
Great seeing you all.
Thanks, everybody. Love the energy.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.